Hello everybody, welcome. This is going to be your first lab. So the way that this class works is CSCI 1100 is your lecture site. It's where you're going to find your exit tickets, your quizzes, and lecture resources, sources to help you study and things like that. And 1150, CSCI 1150 is where you're going to find everything that's about lab. So first we're going to go to the content section, and this is going to be our first lab. So lecture is really about exposing you to concepts, to terminology, to, it's more of the theory component. And lab is where we take some of those concepts and put them into focus and put them into practice. So lab is about getting hands-on. So this is our first lab that we're about to do together. Let's look at some of the next ones. So you'll see this pattern where I put the instructions at the top, and then I'll be putting the Dropbox submission usually right below the instructions. And in some weeks, things get a little bit busier. Like this one, I have this files submodule, and it's actually missing the start file, but there's a file that you'll see once you get to the Microsoft Excel lab down here in files that says start file. Well, you'll click download, and that'll be basically the file that you use as your starting point. And then sometimes in the files I share things like screenshots that you can compare your work with to make sure you got the right thing going on. So sometimes it gets a little bit busier, but normally it's always going to follow this pattern where you have instructions up at the top, and then the Dropbox after. And if I have to share more files, they're typically down below that. So let's go ahead and open these instructions so we can get started. So I'll go ahead and click this, and it does this thing where it kind of opens in a new tab like that. So if I want to back up in this breadcrumb navigation, I just click here, and now I'm back where I want to be. So what's nice is we can download this, and what I like to do is instead of click download, so if you want to save these for later, definitely a nice thing to do. I like to download these as a PDF, and that way I can kind of mark them up. You have to click or hit enter, or at least I do, in Safari. And by the way, I'm using Safari. Mac users, I really recommend using Chrome to access everything D2L related. Things just work better on Chrome. So sometimes I have Safari users that tell me that they can't play a video. Usually that's Safari's privacy settings. You can actually kind of change the privacy settings to fix that usually, but I usually tell people just use Chrome, and you'll have a better experience. So let's go to my downloads folder, and there's that PDF. So I can double click on that, and I'm going to kind of push this over on the side here. Okay, and let's go ahead and let's go ahead and look at these instructions. Okay, so Windows or Mac computer with Microsoft 365 installed as a prerequisite. So for this particular lab, because the screenshot I require at the end is of Microsoft on the web, OneDrive on the web, you could technically just use OneDrive on the web for this lab. But what you are going to need to do is you are going to need to have access to a Windows or a Mac computer, especially in the part of the class where we use Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. The online web-based versions of those applications and the mobile-based versions, so the kind you could get on, say, a Chromebook or an iPad, they're not the same. And we have to be able to teach from one version. So you will need that. So how do you install Microsoft 365? Well, I can go to a new tab here, Command T, and I'm going to type office.com/apps. Enter. And after I sign into my ETSU student account, I click Install Apps up here, click on this first button, and then when that completes, I'll go find that installer in my Downloads folder, and I'll double click that installer and just follow the setup instructions. Usually it'll have you, I think it will probably have you sign in once, and then you may even have to sign in again. So when it's done installing, if you open Word, Excel, PowerPoint, any of those, and it looks like the options are kind of like grayed out or something, what you can do is go to Help, I think, or you might have to go to File. Let's see. I'm not used to Mac. You might have to go to Sign Out and then sign back in. But anyway, so that's how you can get Microsoft Office set up. The reason I'm recording this video on my MacBook today is because I want to show Mac users how you can get OneDrive showing up in your Finder window, because it usually just happens automatically in Windows. So if I go to my system settings, I need to go to, I believe it's Login, Items and Extensions under the General, and then I need to go to Microsoft OneDrive here. So this is after you've installed Microsoft 365, and you're going to toggle this on. Okay? And then what we're going to do is, so that's still not going to get it showing up in Finder. So the next thing I'm going to do is press Command Spacebar for Spotlight search, and I'm going to search for OneDrive just to pull up that app. Okay, I'm going to click Sign In. Okay, and then this should help me set that OneDrive folder on my Mac. So you can see it's going to put it in user/Ryan/OneDrive. Okay, click Next. Next. Later, open OneDrive folder. And look at that. Now we got it right there. You can customize if you like things in your favorites. Like I like to show just about everything. You can go up here to Finder, Settings, and you can customize what appears on the sidebar and what appears in your favorites. But there we go. So that's my OneDrive storage, and you can see it's syncing things in right now. That's probably going to take a minute. So I'll go ahead and stop this video and pick up in the next one. Okay, so now we're going to start by downloading a file. So if you're on Mac OS, then your file manager, the application that you use to manage and navigate your folders and files, is called Finder. If you're on Windows, it's called File Explorer. Don't ask me what it's called on a Chromebook. I don't know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my browser, and it says that we're going to download these. Let me get a highlighter here. It says we're going to download the file management slides from the Tech Tips module in D2L. Okay, well, slides are a lecture resource. So it's not talking about our lab, it's talking about our lecture site. So you're going to go in here and find your CSCI 1100 section. For me right now, it's going to be this funny looking course code D2L site here, but I'm going to go to Content. Then I'm going to find week 1. And then here we are, File Management 101. And I'll go ahead and open this up. So you're going to click Download as a PDF or Download PDF. You'll have to give it a minute while it converts all of these web-based slides into images and builds a PDF for you. Okay, and then you might have to click allow in some browsers before it downloads, but after you click allow, then the download should complete. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and find that. Let's go to downloads, and here it is right at the top. Okay, so I know where that document is. Now let's go back to my instructions and see what we do next. So it says open your file manager and navigate to OneDrive storage. So by the way, if let's say you're on a Chromebook right now, ideally I wanted you to do this first part through your system's file manager, but you wouldn't be able to mount your OneDrive storage on something like a Chromebook. So what you can do is instead go ahead and go to office.com/apps, and you can just access OneDrive through the web. So I'll click OneDrive here after signing in with my ETSU student email address. And it's easier if you click My Files, and then the steps and the instructions that are talking about doing this in the file manager, well, instead you can just do that through the web. So for the first step where I create a new folder, you just click Create Upload Folder, and then you would name it there. So you can just do it all through the web. So I'm going to go to Finder though. If you're on Windows or Mac, then you'll be doing it through the file manager. And then I'm going to find my OneDrive storage. It's down here. And the first step, it says, let me see if I can kind of move this over. It says, using your file manager, create a new folder in your OneDrive folder, named CSCI 1100 using information tech. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to click this, and I'm going to click New Folder. If you're on Windows right now, then you can just press Control-Shift-N on your keyboard, or you can right-click somewhere and then select the New Folder option. So New Folder, and then I'm actually going to have to click Rename. So I just right-click or two-finger click if you're on a Mac to get this context menu, and then say Rename, and then I'm going to rename it CSCI 1100 using information tech. Hit enter. Okay, I think it moved it up to the top somewhere. You can see how disorganized I am right now. This is how I don't want you guys to end up. Don't want you to end up like me. Okay. So it says inside that folder, create another folder for lecture resources. So what does that mean? Well, I'm already inside this folder, so if I back up, let's see, where did that folder go? Then here it is. So if I double click that, now I'm inside this folder. So if you're in the web right now, well, look at that. There's my new folder there that I just created from Finder. It just synced that over. That's the benefit of cloud-based storage. So click on that, and now I'm inside that folder. So now if I wanted to create another folder, I can do that here. But I'm going to do this through Finder. So I'm going to two-finger click, or the equivalent of right-click on a Mac, say New Folder, and then I'm going to name this Lecture Resources and Slides. So I said in the instructions, I don't care exactly what you name the subfolder, the folder inside that we just created, as long as it's kind of clear what it's for. So that's what I was conveying here. So yeah, just try to think about, 3 years later, I'm like, oh, you know what? I really want to look back at that slide set on data literacy because it had some good tips for the chart that I'm trying to create. And you're like, where would I find that? Think about what kind of like folder structure and names, especially names that you could search in a search bar, would actually help you find what you were looking for. That's how I try to arrange stuff. And actually, I think I'll do it. I think I'll do it like my screenshot here. So let me just rename this. I'm going to use numbers to kind of try to give it some order here. So new folder, I'm going to make a folder where I store my syllabus. And it is a good recommendation, guys, that for every course, go ahead and download a copy of your syllabus and save it somewhere. Why? If you transfer to an institution later and you need to, you'll usually need that so that you can get transfer credit if there's a course you're trying to get transfer credit for. So it's just always a good idea to hold on to your course's syllabus. And then we'll click new folder again, and I'm going to make this one for my labs. And now we can store our lab resources here each week. So I could go ahead and put my first lab here. Tech tips, file management. Okay, and then I can go ahead and close this. I'm going to press Command N, press Control N on a Windows computer, and I'm going to go ahead and move my instructions over here. So not a necessary step, just thought I'll go ahead and get that organized. Okay. So now I've got that step 3 satisfied. Now it says keep the current file manager window open and launch a second one. I just did that. Let me do it again. So Command N. And then it tells me to find that downloaded file and to move it or copy it into my folder that I just created here. So I'm going to press, okay, so I'm going to find that file. I'm actually not sure. Oh, downloads. There it is, right at the top. No, that's not it. This one's it. No, I'm sorry. That is it. I can't read. Okay, so I can press Command C, and then, whoops, Command C. And then if I press Command V, you'll see it paste over there. Or I can just click and kind of hold down on my touchpad and then drag this. I keep editing it. I am not versed at the Mac yet. Might have to do a 2-finger. Oh, okay, there we go. I don't know. There we go. So you can drag and drop, you can copy and paste, but you want to get it copied or moved into this folder here. All right. And so now that means that if let's say I don't have access to my laptop later and I want to access that file, well, I know that if I go to office.com/apps and go to OneDrive on the web, I can still find that file based on saving it to a sane location. There it is, right? And so this is a good practice for you when you are creating, when you're working on lab files, go ahead and save it to your OneDrive. So if you need to continue working on your lab file later, that you can, regardless of what device you're on or where you're at. Okay, so let's keep moving. It says rename the PDF by adding something that helps us tell which module this corresponds to. Okay, so it's already got a pretty good file name going on. that describes what we would expect to find if we open up this file. Let's just add something. I'm going to add O1 underscore. So to do an underscore, you just hold down your shift key and hit the minus key, and then I'll hit enter, and there we go. And you can do all the same things if you're just working out of OneDrive on the web. To rename something, you can just click on the context or the more menu, and then click rename down here. All right, so let's see what's next. So this is the part that if you've been on a web browser the whole time, you're already here. But we're going to go office.com/apps. We're going to go to OneDrive. We're going to go to My Files. We're going to find that folder we created. You can change the colors of these, by the way. I like to pick and choose my colors, but anyway. And then we're going to find that. Okay. And now what it wants us to do, is I basically want proof that you have navigated to that file through OneDrive on the web. So all you're going to do next is create a screenshot for me like this. Okay, so I'm going to press Command-Shift-4 so I can do a screenshot on my Mac. If you're on Windows, go ahead and open your search menu and search for snipping tool. And you can use the snipping tool. The snipping tool has an option to save to a file, which is what you need to do. Or you can just, so you can go to File, Save, or you can just press Control-S on your keyboard after you take the screen snip that you want. So I'm going to go ahead and do this on Mac. So I'm going to press Command-Shift-4 on my keyboard. And I'm going to screenshot. Make sure you get this file path up here. So when I say file path, I mean the part that says My Files, CSCI 1100, and then whatever this folder, whatever you've chosen to name it. And you need to also make sure I can see this in the screenshot. Because if I can't see this, then I don't know that you've created a sensible folder structure, right? So make sure those elements are included in your screenshot. And where did my screenshot go? I think by default they land on the desktop. I've got mine all chaotically grouped here. There it is. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to File, Save. Oh, it's already saved. Silly me. File, rename. I'm just going to name it something meaningful. 1100 File Management Lab Screenshot. Okay. I'll put my name in it. Okay, so now I know what it is. All right, so let's make sure I'm following the instructions. Yeah, so here's some more help for you. And now let's look over this rubric criteria because at this point we're basically done. We just need to submit our screenshot. So it says we're going to be graded based on, you got the folder structure as requested. So you have this main folder, and then you have a subfolder inside that, logically named. Subfolder has the File Management 101 slides. So let's verify that. File Management, let's open this up. Okay, I don't know why that's empty. I might have to check how my PDF export is working. But those are the File Management 101 slides. That's kind of the default name that you'll get when you download those. So that's correct. And we should be able to go ahead and submit that. Because our screenshot, it included the file path, it included the file listing. So let's go ahead and turn this in. So it says submit your screenshot as an image file. So what I don't want to see you do is I don't want to see you taking your image here whoops, I don't want to see it copied and pasted into a Word document like this. I just want you to upload just the image file, okay? And that just helps me basically verify that, hey, you can take a screenshot and save it to a file. Okay, so now let's get this thing submitted. So I'm going to find my Dropbox. Make sure you pay attention to the due dates set in the Dropbox. If there's ever a conflict where a due date looks wrong, I'm going by the schedule that I leave on your course schedule here. If you go to content and go to about this course, I'm going to be going off of this schedule. So if there is a discrepancy with a Dropbox due date, then let me know. But pay attention to those due dates. And another pro tip for you as a student is go up here, go to notifications, and you can set Dropbox notifications for, let's say, like when a Dropbox is 2 days away, you can set a notification for that. Now, for 1100 Dropbox, we don't use Dropboxes in 1100, but for 1150, your lab site, that would be a good notification to go up here and go ahead and set that. So let's click on this and let's see what it says. Allowed file types. So these are image file formats. So I guess if you put it in a Word document, it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't accept it anyway. This was my previous, I had just tested this. But by the way, these Dropboxes have rubrics attached to them. And I might not be able to see it in this view. Yeah, here's the rubric. So this is literally when I'm going through and grading, or your lab instructor is grading you later. This is the criteria that they're going to be grading you on. So make sure that you look those over so you know right away. I mean, this is basically your checklist. So if all the instructions don't provide you like a comprehensive checklist, go ahead and check the rubric and see how the instructor is grading you. Make sure you understand what you're being graded on. So another way I can find this Dropbox is if I go over here. So then I'm just going to click this and I'm going to upload my file. Let me hide this. Upload my file right here. Click add my computer and I'm going to find this file. So if you save this file on Windows, by default, it would be in pictures / screenshots probably. I saved mine on my desktop, so that's where it is. And I get a preview, so I can already tell that's the right file. What I recommend you do is, so we'll click add. After you have added and click submit, if you want to go ahead and verify, you can click on that file, make sure it's right. You can go to evaluation, Dropbox. You can always see your submissions here. And so if you click this and you're like, oh shoot, that's the wrong file, or I didn't do that right, I cropped off the top part or something, that's okay. Go ahead, and as long as you do it before the submission deadline, just go ahead and resubmit. And maybe you'll leave a note to your instructor that says, please grade the most recent submission in the message. And then your instructor, when they evaluate it, you're going to see that evaluation status and your score show up on evaluation / Dropbox. Okay? All right. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week.